Do animals ever realize they're trapped in nature? A wildlife biologist studying elephant behavior in a national park documented something in her field notes that she initially marked as an error before reconsidering. A young female elephant had been observed for 3 years moving through her established home range with predictable seasonal patterns. Dry season routes. Wet season routes. Preferred water sources. The range was well established and consistent. Then one afternoon the elephant approached the park boundary fence. Not accidentally. Not while foraging. She walked directly to the fence line and stopped. She reached her trunk through the perimeter barrier and touched the earth on the other side. She held that position for nearly 4 minutes before retracting her trunk and standing with her head against the fence. The next morning she was back at the same location. Over the following 6 days the elephant returned to that exact spot 5 times. Always in the early morning. Always standing with her head against the fence. Always reaching her trunk through to touch the soil on the other side. On the 7th day she stopped coming. The biologist's note in her field journal asked a question that would not leave her alone. Did that elephant understand that the fence was keeping her in? Or was she simply attracted to something she sensed on the other side? Start with what trapped actually means in an animal's conceptual world. Humans understand trapped as a state of being constrained by physical barriers from reaching a desired location. The understanding requires holding multiple concepts simultaneously. A desired location. A current location different from the desired one. Physical barriers preventing movement between them. An understanding that removal of the barrier would enable the desired movement. That is a sophisticated cognitive chain that most researchers have assumed was uniquely human or close to it. The assumption has been getting harder to defend. Researchers studying tool use in captive orangutans have documented something that challenges the assumption directly. An orangutan that cannot reach food through a barrier will attempt to solve the problem through object manipulation. It will retrieve tools, extend reach, try various approaches. But the moment the orangutan succeeds in moving the barrier even slightly, it stops the random attempts and focuses exclusively on widening the gap it has created. That is not random problem solving. That is understanding that the barrier itself is the problem. The barrier is the variable that needs to change. The orangutan has formed a concept of trapped and is directing its behavior toward untrapping itself. But understanding trapped is not the same as understanding why you are trapped. A dog in a crate understands that the door prevents movement. It will push at the door. It will bark at the door. It understands the door is the problem. Does it understand that the human put it there? Does it understand the human could remove it? Does it have a theory about why the door exists between the dog and the place the dog wants to be? Those are different questions. And the answers might be yes, but they might also be not yet or not in the way we would recognize. There is a documented phenomenon in zoo animals that researchers describe as stereotypic pacing behavior that adds another dimension to this conversation. Animals in captive environments that are too small for their natural range will sometimes pace in repetitive patterns along the perimeter of their enclosure. The pacing is not random. It is often a specific route that the animal traces over and over. Some researchers have interpreted this as the animal executing phantom versions of its natural range movements even though the actual range is unavailable. The animal is enacting the life it would be living if the boundaries were not there. That is a form of understanding trapped that is different from understanding the specific barrier that creates the trap. It is understanding that the normal way life should be organized is not available. Understanding at a level that might be deeper than conscious articulation but is still operating in the animal's behavioral system. The elephant at the park boundary adds a complication that stereotypic pacing does not quite capture. She did not return to the fence and repeat the same behavior automatically. She returned to the specific location 5 times across 7 days. She targeted the exact spot where she had sensed something on the other side. She appeared to be investigating rather than enacting a phantom range. If she had developed a concept of trap, she would need to have also developed a concept of escape. An escape that was possible. A direction in which the boundary ended. A place beyond the boundary where whatever she had sensed through the fence was actually located. The fact that she stopped returning after 6 days could mean many things. The scent she had detected dissipated. She forgot about it. Something frightened her away from that location. Or she understood the fence and determined it could not be overcome and moved on from the attempt. Here is the problem with trying to answer this question from outside an animal's consciousness. The elephant demonstrated behavior consistent with understanding she was trapped. She demonstrated behavior consistent with investigating an escape route. She demonstrated behavior consistent with recognizing that the escape route could not be accessed and giving up. All of these interpretations fit the data she left behind. None of them can be confirmed because confirmation would require the elephant to articulate its own understanding. And no elephant has a vocabulary for explaining to a human whether it understands the concept of being trapped or why it ultimately decided to stop trying. Which brings everything back to that elephant standing at the fence line, reaching her trunk through to touch the earth on the other side. The biologist watching her had spent her career learning to read animal behavior with precision. She could read intention in body language. She could read stress in movement patterns. She could read goal-directed behavior when she saw it. What she could not read was whether the elephant understood the concept that organized all of that behavior. Whether trapped had become a word inside the elephant's mind. Whether the understanding was conscious articulation or something deeper that operated below language. The elephant had returned to the fence 6 times. She had targeted the exact location. She had reached through to the other side. Then she had stopped. She had apparently made a decision. Was it the decision of an animal that understood it was trapped and decided the trap could not be escaped? Or was it the decision of an animal that had investigated an interesting smell and lost interest when the smell faded? The truth might be that the distinction between those two options is not as clear as we assume. That understanding trapped and losing interest in investigating something might be produced by the same cognitive system running on different operating parameters. That the elephant understood something about the fence. What exactly it understood might be a question that only the elephant could answer. And she was not telling.